Welcome back to Chasing Masculinity, the podcast where we break down what it means to be a man in today's world, rooted in strength, discipline, and unwavering purpose. Over the course of this journey, we've explored 23 principles that define masculinity, each one a pillar designed to build men into leaders, providers, and protectors. And now we've arrived at the final rule. Rule 24, do not seek intelligence, seek wisdom. This is the last rule for a reason. It is the accumulation of everything we've discussed, because at the end of the day, it's not just about knowledge, skill, or even raw ability. It's about how you apply it. Intelligence may open doors, but wisdom tells you which ones to walk through. In this episode, we're going to break down why wisdom is the highest pursuit a man can have, how it differs from intelligence, and why those who are truly wise are not first to speak. If you've made it this far, if you've internalized these rules and committed yourself to this journey of masculinity, then you understand the weight of what we're about to discuss. This is the rule that ties everything together, because in the end, a man who lacks wisdom, no matter how strong, intelligent, or capable he may be, is still incomplete. Let's get into it. Let's start by talking about the nature of intelligence. Intelligence as a man-made construct, if you will. So intelligence is commonly associated with knowledge, academic success, problem-solving abilities. Society often measures intelligence through things like IQ tests or educational achievements and career success. Now, there is a role in genetics in someone's ability to have intelligence. Studies show that IQ is actually largely determined by genetics, meaning intelligence is something you're born with rather than something you develop extensively. And while intelligence can be refined, the ceiling is often set by these biological factors. Now, intelligence is a man-made system. Intelligence is valuable for navigating artificial constructs like standardized testing or corporate structures or academic settings. Many people pursue intelligence because it's rewarded in modern institutions, but it does not inherently equate to success or fulfillment in life. But intelligence alone is not sufficient. Intelligence without wisdom is actually dangerous. If you're someone who's highly intelligent in finance, you may amass wealth, but you could make unethical decisions, ultimately leading to your own downfall. Many intelligent people fail in relationships because they lack the emotional wisdom and discernment needed to keep it healthy. So a lack of wisdom could lead directly to poor judgment. Knowing how to do something, intelligence, is different than knowing when or why to do it. That's wisdom. Think of a politician. They could have extensive knowledge on policies, but without wisdom, they're going to lack the needed know-how about how to govern justly. Intelligence can also be used for deception. There's manipulative leaders that we can see throughout history that were very intelligent, but they very much lacked wisdom, leading to destruction. Think of the Machiavellian leaders, people who are very smart, but are using that in non-wise ways, using that for personal growth or for the destruction of others. And there's also just an inherent limit to human knowledge. This intellectual arrogance assumes that human understanding is the highest form of knowledge. There are countless people who believe that intelligence alone is the answer to life's problems, that through intelligence, through knowledge, we can conquer the universe. But I think history has proven that knowledge alone does not prevent human corruption or failure. The biblical principle that I like to rely on specifically for this rule too is the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. That's Proverbs 9:10. So true wisdom acknowledges the limitations of knowledge and seeks divine guidance. So how do we understand this verse in its context? Proverbs 9:10. It emphasizes that wisdom does not begin with human reasoning, intelligence, or even experience, but it's in that reverence for God. That's the fear of God. Fear of the Lord doesn't mean terror. It means a deep respect and awe and a submission to God's authority. Think back to rule number 1. To fear God is to not live in fear. We broke this down pretty extensively. This verse is highlighting the limitations of what our human knowledge is, that true wisdom requires a foundation beyond this mere intellect. So true wisdom acknowledges the limitations of human knowledge. Human intelligence is, in fact, finite. No matter how much knowledge someone might acquire, there are always unknowns beyond human comprehension. Think of just all the vast amounts of the universe that science has discovered, that astronomy that we've seen in the stars because of these man-made creations, the James Webb telescope. We could see things we never thought imaginable. But there are still mysteries about consciousness and morality and the meaning of life that science it can't answer. We don't have the ability to. And even as we keep marching forward in the name of advancements in science and understanding in the universe, that doesn't mean that we're going to have all the answers. I think it's that naivety where we think because we're making forward progress in our understanding, therefore there must be an end goal for our understanding. And that's just simply not true. Intelligence alone cannot discern right from wrong either. A person might be intelligent enough to manipulate systems and to exploit people and to justify their own immoral actions. But without wisdom, they're acting in a lack of moral clarity. History, again, going back, full of politicians and scientists and strategists who were immensely brilliant, but they lacked wisdom, and they used their intelligence for destruction rather than good, either intentionally or even unintentionally. That's why God's wisdom, it's going to surpass all of this human reasoning. Isaiah 55, 8-9 says, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord." True wisdom is found not in trusting in one's own intellect, but submitting to this divine instruction, if you will. Seeking this divine guidance is a path to wisdom and can be quite dangerous in a good way when coupled with knowledge. Wisdom comes from God. It's not self-reliance. James 1:5. "If any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask of God, who gives to all liberally and without reproach, and it will be given to him." So seeking this wisdom, it requires humility. It requires that you come before God and ask for it, recognizing that you do not have all the answers and that you have to turn to God for that direction. The Bible, this book of books, this library of old texts, it's the foundation of wisdom. Scripture provides moral practice and spiritual wisdom that far surpasses any man-made philosophy. It's the reason it is the oldest and best-selling book ever. There's a reason that Christians and non-Christians alike have studied the Bible, because it perfectly sums up human existence. It perfectly sums up human understanding and capability and limitations. Psalm 119, 105, "Your word is the lamp to my feet and a light to my path." Biblical wisdom, it's timeless. It's guiding men in relationships. It's guiding men in leadership. It's guiding men in finances. It's guiding men in decision making. And this fear of the Lord leads to this somewhat righteous living. It puts you on the right path. The wisest men in history were those who align their lives with God's instruction. Think of King Solomon, the wisest man. He asked for wisdom rather than riches or power, and God blessed him abundantly because of that. Because he had wisdom, he was then able to accumulate the gifts that someone full of greed might otherwise immediately ask for. Think about if you were in that position. You would probably reject God, rely on your own understanding, and ask for things like this wealth or this power. And that is a direct road to moral and personal destruction. So what does it mean living with the fear of the Lord? Well, 1, submit to God's authority. Recognize that God's wisdom is higher than human wisdom. Stop trusting in only human logic. You have to seek his direction. 2 would be to seek biblical wisdom, probably daily. So reading Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, and the teachings of Christ to gain this true wisdom, to get that insight from this divine text. Surround yourself with godly counsel, these wise mentors, biblical teachers, and spiritual mature men, people who are going to be able to just exude this sort of wisdom that you can take in. And then 3 would be to actually pray for wisdom. Follow Solomon's example and ask God for wisdom daily. Rely on God's discernment, not just your own reasoning, when facing these challenges that require more than just mere human intellect. And the last, number 4, live with humility. Understand that you don't know everything. You never will. Always be willing to learn and to grow and to listen to this wise counsel. Wisdom is not about appearing the smartest, but about making the best decisions based on what is true and what is righteous. So before we move on, this verse, the fear of the Lord is not just the beginning of wisdom, it's the foundation of a life that is well lived. A man who fears God will seek wisdom that leads to righteousness, stability, and long-term success. Seeking wisdom from God above all else, and everything else will kind of just fall into place. So now I want to talk about the difference between intelligence and wisdom. There are some very key differences here. Intelligence would be the accumulation of facts and knowledge. Remember, knowledge, it's this man-made thing. It's studying the things of the earth, the things of man. Whereas wisdom would be the actual ability to apply this knowledge with the morality and discernment needed to appropriately apply these decisions. Intelligence can be measured by things like IQs and grades and degrees. Wisdom can't really be measured. It's one of those things that's kind of only observed through your actions. Intelligence, it's going to help you win arguments. It's going to make you look good in front of people. It's going to make you feel good and feel powerful. But wisdom is actually going to help you navigate life successfully. Intelligence, this knowledge, it might be focused on logic and data. Again, these man-made empirical points that you can point at on a piece of paper. But wisdom, it can consider these long-term consequences and ethics and relationships. It put things into the grander perspective of the universe. So that's why wisdom should be the ultimate goal. Wisdom integrates knowledge with experience and morality and purpose. It's the bigger umbrella. A wise man would ask not just, can I do this, but should I do this? Not just, what will this do for me, but what impact will this have in the long run? Wisdom is going to prevent destruction. Many brilliant men have ruined their lives because they lacked wisdom. It can destroy marriages and businesses, and it can destroy your legacy. A genius-level scientist is going to be unable to maintain a family due to a lack of wisdom in personal relationships. Let's go back to the wisdom derived from Solomon. So God offers Solomon anything he desires. Instead of asking for these riches and power, he asks for wisdom. And because he sought wisdom first, he actually gained wealth, power, and a success as a byproduct, and a massive legacy to follow him. What lessons can we pull from that quickly? True wisdom is prioritizing this discernment over whatever personal gain. And I'm not saying that if you only seek wisdom, you will get riches and power such as Solomon, but I'm saying wisdom should be sought first, and then you will have that discernment. You will have the ability to allow these other things, whether or not they're right for your life or not. Seeking wisdom first allows everything else, whatever success, stability, fulfillment, to naturally follow, to fall into its place in your life. So what is wisdom? Where can we find this? Well, let's talk about where wisdom can and cannot be found. Wisdom, it is not the same as intelligence. Intelligence is about acquiring knowledge. Wisdom is about applying this knowledge correctly in the right context, in the right place in this world. You can be highly intelligent, but make stupid decisions because you lack wisdom. Many are confusing academic achievement with wisdom, but these degrees, these credentials do not guarantee discernment. In today's modern society, we have an obsession with intelligence instead of wisdom. Society rewards intelligence. It rewards you with higher grades, more promotions, more awards, but it's overlooking wisdom. Many intellectuals lack common sense or morality or an understanding of human nature because they've only sought intelligence. Intelligence without wisdom can be really dangerous. History has seen brilliant minds lead nations to ruin due to just sheer arrogance. Think of Oppenheimer and the atomic bomb. His intelligence allowed him to develop a powerful technology, but those moral implications, they haunted him. So let's first talk about where are some false sources of wisdom. So that would be intelligence, maybe disguised as wisdom even. There are a lot of social media, quote unquote, experts. This is a part of that information overload we've talked about. But there's little discernment that actually goes into all of this information that's being hurled at you. And there's secular philosophy. It's offering this human reasoning, this stoicism, if you will, but it often ignores the deeper and spiritual truths of what it means to be a man. And in today's modern era, there are these echo chambers that you can find yourself in where you're surrounding yourself with people who only reinforce what you already believe and don't challenge or refine your thinking. And all this can lead to some sort of emotional impulse where you're acting on your feelings. How do I feel in the moment? Who am I based on how I feel? Rather than deep understanding, which is not going to lead you to these poor decision makings that this emotional impulse would. So where are the best places to seek wisdom? Well, first, obviously, it's scripture and faith. The Bible is filled with wisdom on how to live righteously, how to make sound decisions, and how to develop this strong character, how to genuinely be a man. I said it before, but Proverbs and Ecclesiastes, these books really focused on the contrast between wisdom and foolishness, man-made desire, if you will. And then Jesus' teachings, they're emphasizing humility and patience and discernment. These are core components of wisdom. These are core components of being masculine. Then through prayer and reflection. So seeking wisdom, you got to sit in a quiet place. You got to be patient, and you have to go to God humbly and hear his guidance. Wisdom is going to come from stillness. A lot of men fail to grow in wisdom because they just never slow down to stop and reflect. I struggle with this so much. Even when I have time slotted on my calendar, on my to-do list, is to stop and reevaluate and go through my checklist to make sure that I'm in the proper alignment that I need to be. I rush through it so I can move to the next thing, which is completely antithetical to the point where I am not taking a moment to sit in silence and alone time and not have a timer on it and not be worrying about the next thing I need to do after this, to actually take the time to reflect and grow in that manner. Then there's also learning from other wise men, so seeking counsel from older, more experienced, and more morally grounded men. Wisdom can often be found in those who have lived through struggle and hardship and failures. Proverbs 13:20, walk with the wise and become wise, for a companion of fools suffers harm. Look for mentors who are slow to anger and thoughtful in their speech and consistent in their character, because those could be signs of somebody who has grown in wisdom. And lastly, there's life experience and reflection. Like I was talking about before, you have to kind of reflect on what you've done in the past day or week or month or whatever period you are doing your self-checkups, because wisdom is cultivated through this experience and through failure and through learning from your mistakes. Many of life's greatest lessons come from hardship. It's about what not to do rather than what to do. Wisdom is forged in this adversity of spirit. There's also journaling and self-reflection. So whatever level of writing things down, the lessons you've learned, the past decisions, that will help you refine your wisdom. It will help you actually look at what you've done and what impact that's had. So wisdom, it is a lifelong pursuit. You never really arrive. It's this ongoing journey. A wise man continues to seek wisdom until the day he dies, unlike intelligence, which could kind of have a peak. Wisdom deepens with age and experience. Many men in their 20s believe they have life figured out, and then you get to your 30s and you realize how naive you were. And then you get to your 40s and you realize how naive you were in your 30s, and that continues to accumulate. You actually realize how little you knew previously. A wise man is not going to assume he has all the answers. Arrogance is the downfall of many intelligent men. Pride is going to blind you to your own ignorance. A wise man's humble, always willing to learn, always seeking to grow. So now I want to get into the value of listening and why wise men are slow to speak. It's the hidden rule within this rule. A fool speaks to prove his intelligence. A wise man speaks only when necessary. Those who lack wisdom feel the need to constantly talk to gain that validation. Trust me, I would know this is a personal example where a wise man listens first and speaks only when he has something meaningful to contribute. This is something I very much do not do. Think of the wisdom of a great leader. The best leaders listen to their teams before making decisions. Abraham Lincoln was known to sit quietly in absorbing every viewpoint before offering his perspective. Proverbs 17:28, even fools are thought wise if they keep silent, and discerning if they hold their tongues. Even an ignorant man can appear wise simply by listening before he speaks. So how does this listening increase our wisdom? Well, one, the more you listen, the more you learn. Active listening helps you gain that perspective and teaches you the patience you need before you speak to grow in some level of deeper understanding. Wise men are observing before they act. And two, they avoid the trap of speaking just to be heard. Many men seek validation, including myself, by talking. But a man secure in himself doesn't need to prove anything. If I'm sitting in a meeting, sometimes I'm the one that speaks the most. And when I do that, it usually means I don't have the best ideas. I'm not the one who's listening and waits before speaking. There's been many times I've found myself sitting in a meeting and I find myself speaking more than I should. And that usually does not correlate to me having the best ideas. Whereas inversely, someone who's sitting in the meeting and listens and waits before speaking usually has a much more insightful contribution than just speaking after every turn. So here's what I found are some practical ways to become a better listener and that I've tried implementing and I've seen some success in already. One, pause before speaking. When someone speaks, take a few minutes to process before responding. This is going to prevent impulse and emotional responses, and it also makes sure that they're just done speaking before you talk, because people love to talk. So if you interrupt after every sentence, they're probably not done saying what they want to say. You'll often find that someone will just keep going and going and going, and all you have to do is listen. The next would be ask questions instead of just giving your opinions. Instead of responding with your own thoughts immediately, you could ask some level of clarifying question to allow them to elaborate. This helps you fully understand the situation before you're making any judgment as well. And lastly, observe more, speak less. This one's pretty straightforward, but pay attention. Pay attention to someone's body language, their tone, their intent, not just what they're saying. Wisdom comes from understanding not just what is said, but why it is said. So how do you apply all of this Rule 24, which is seeking wisdom over intelligence? First, assess your current pursuits. Are you focused on accumulating knowledge, intelligence, or applying knowledge wisely, wisdom? Do you care more about being right rather than understanding what is right? Many men will actually argue to prove their intelligence, but a wise man only argues to find the truth. The next, identify one area to grow in wisdom. Where in life do you need more wisdom? Is it faith? Are you relying on your own understanding instead of seeking God's wisdom? Relationships, are you approaching conflicts with wisdom or just reacting emotionally? And then finances, are you making wise financial decisions or simply trying to accumulate wealth? There's also habits to develop wisdom, so journaling, writing down your lessons or learned experiences. There's prayer in Scripture, which is just regularly going back and seeking God's guidance, and then being able to engage in deeper conversations with people. Talk with wise mentors instead of just your peers who might be in the same stage of life as you. Next, you can start practicing the art of listening. So make a commitment to listen more and to speak less in these important conversations. And go back and observe yourself in these discussions. Are you speaking to add value or to just be heard and to get your 2 cents in? The next would be to surround yourself with wise men. Who in your life constantly makes wise decisions? Seek their guidance. Watch how they approach problems and learn from the mindset that they have established. And Cut out those voices that encourage foolishness and arrogance and impulsiveness. Here's my final thought on this application. Wisdom is the ultimate pursuit. Intelligence fades, especially with age. Knowledge becomes outdated because we're constantly discovering new things, but this wisdom, that lasts a lifetime. A truly masculine man is not the one who speaks the loudest, but the one who listens, understands, and then acts with wisdom. So seek wisdom first, and then everything else will follow. So that brings us to the end of Rule 24. Do not seek intelligence, seek wisdom. And with it, the completion of the 24 Rules of Masculinity. To everyone who has followed along on this journey, who has listened and reflected and taken these principles to heart, thank you. It is not the end. I hope this is just the beginning. We will continue to explore new topics each week, diving into some real challenges that face men in today's world, and pushing each other to grow in discipline and strength and wisdom. As we close this final rule, remember this: intelligence has its place, but wisdom is what truly defines a man's legacy. The men who leave the deepest impact are not the ones who simply know the most, but the ones who apply their knowledge with discernment and humility and purpose. A wise man listens before he speaks, learns before he teaches, and acts with clarity and conviction. So, as you move forward, ask yourself, are you chasing knowledge for the sake of knowledge, or are you seeking wisdom that will shape you into the man you are called to be? This is the heart of chasing masculinity, and the pursuit doesn't stop here. Keep chasing masculinity by seeking wisdom over intelligence, because the man who is wise knows when to listen, knows when to speak, and knows when to act. Thank you for being part of this journey. I'll see you in the next episode, and as always, keep chasing masculinity.